across the land, joepags.com, all the social media there. Also Newsmax TV, the Joe Pags Show. Glad to have you here. And really glad to have on the former press secretary for the Trump administration, Sean Spicer. Sean, how are you?
I'm great. How are you? Thanks for having me on, Joe.
Yeah, I'm living the dream, man. It's really great to have you. Brand new book called The Briefing, Politics, the Press, and the President. It's going to come out tomorrow. Really glad to have you in advance of it. You can go ahead and pre-order it now, can't you?
Yes, yeah. It's available on Amazon.com right now. I think BarnesandNoble.com, and then obviously in bookstores everywhere tomorrow. But, beat the rush. Get out there and order it today.
well, please do that. And it's going to sell by the millions. It's going to be a huge bestseller. You got to be weary from doing all this press, and I appreciate you taking the time. A little background on me. I started doing cable news stuff because Tony Snow happened to be a couple of studios down from me, happened to be in town in San Antonio, and he was walking by, and I called him in. I said, Tony, I think I can do this TV stuff where you yell at somebody from the other side. Can you hook me up? And he did. He was really nice. And, of course, a couple of weeks later, he became the press secretary for George W. Bush. I kept in contact with him when he did that job. And the job was a little cantankerous, I guess, Sean, but nothing like we see now. When you walked into the job, did you sort of expect that you would be treated like the press secretaries for Obama and for George W. Bush before them? Because you walked into a firing squad, didn't you?
I did, and I think that the climate has definitely changed for a variety of reasons. Obviously, this president came to shake things up, and There's no question he did it. But I talk a lot about this in the book, Joe, where it's like, here's how what I thought I was walking into, and how I prepared and what we were doing to structure it. And we weren't even really by the end of the first day when we realized that this was not going to be, your father's White House.
No, exactly right. And I think that's a great point. It's Sean Spicer, former press secretary for President Donald Trump. The Briefing, Politics, the Press, and the President, the name of the book. Pre-order it now, get 5 copies, and get it out to your friends. I mean, when Tony did it, there would be some back and forth, a little bit of sarcasm, a little bit of facetiousness, but it was all in good fun, and they were trying to do a job, and he was doing a job. When you walked in, you got battered. So what was the initial reaction? Did you think they were kidding, or were you like, oh, man, I'm in for a fight?
Well, there's a couple things. Obviously, throughout it started, during the campaign and through the transition. So it wasn't entirely unexpected, but, there was this constant undermining of Trump and his campaign and his candidacy and then his victory. And I think that there had been a lot of, cantankerous back and forth, that occurred well before that first day. And then, and I write this in the book, that, let's just to be, straight, I talk about that first day in the White House, and I don't think I did myself any favors the way it all started off. Not just by the press corps, but by the president himself. He wasn't pleased with that day, and I've joked that I think save my mom and my wife, I'm not sure anybody was too sick.
It's Sean Spicer. The name of the book is The Briefing, Politics, the Press, and the President. Of course, he was the press secretary for President Donald Trump. So you walk out there and you realize what the relationship is going to be. How did you change course? Because you're right. The first day you came out firing, they were firing, and then you did sort of, back off a little bit and say, okay, let me do my job, and they can act the fool all they want. What was it? What was the process in you saying, let me go and prepare myself this way instead of the way that I thought I was going to?
Well, like I said, I think that what I sort of realized really quick, and I call one of the chapters, literally baptism by fire, that it was going to be different. And so I started to adapt. I learned that the president, and this president in particular, was very, very particular about how he wanted things said and done. Yeah. And I learned that it was incumbent upon me to check in with him to make sure that I was communicating exactly what and how he wanted things expressed. So for me, I talked to a lot of my predecessors about how they prepared, what they went out, who they sought guidance from, and I learned very quickly and very often that you don't go out there and talk about what the president says and believes if he hasn't told you on a variety of topics what his current feelings is. So despite all the other input that you may have gotten, he wants to weigh off before his name is thrown around supporting or not supporting a decision or a policy or what have you.
You were trending earlier today, and again, the name of the book is The Briefing: Politics, the Press, and the President. It's Sean Spicer, the first press secretary for this president, Donald Trump. You were trending because you dared stick to the fact that there was a huge inauguration crowd. Why is that the question that the left is still asking you? I don't understand. I mean, everybody who actually does these counts for a living realizes that the first picture was taken at a different time as it was compared to Obama. The transit people all added the numbers up. But why are they still asking you this?
Because I think that it's emblematic, and as I just mentioned, I mean, I think that, look, the reality is that would I love to have done that day over? Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know, and there was no one, as I mentioned, that was happy about that. And I think for the press, they want you know, they want some vindication by having me say it. And like I said, I there's no question about it that I could have done a much better job of communicating what we want. But I've litigated this so many times, and to your point, you're right. They don't want to let it go because anything less than, you know, some kind of billboard that says that, you know, I screwed up won't ever suffice. And it's amazing because it is the same question over and over again, and each one of them wants to ask it so they can hear it. And I've said it. Look, I write extensively about this and so many other moments in the book, Joe, that I made a lot of mistakes, and there's a lot of things that I would hope to do over. And I hope, you know, to some extent there's some lessons learned in there where people can say, wow, I actually can apply, you know, the lesson that he talks about in this book to my life, my business, so that I don't make a similar mistake. And I learned a lot in the job, and I hope that I come out a stronger and better person and professional because of it.
Well, I respect you for writing the book, and I respect you for coming on and answering questions like these. The Briefing: Politics, the Press, and the President is the name of the book. Pre-order it today. It's out tomorrow. It's Sean Spicer, the first press secretary for this president, Donald Trump. At what point and how did you find out that Melissa McCarthy was going to impersonate you?
Well, it's actually, I lay it all out because that was one of those questions that everyone wanted to know. So I wrote that in one of the chapters. And but briefly, you know, my wife and I had gone to bed. I had gone to bed a little after her on a Saturday evening. That was sort of our time together.
Right.
And we wake up and we're getting ready to take the kids to church in the morning. And she says, you know, I know you went to bed a little after me. Did you stay up late and watch Saturday Night Live? And I said, no, you know, we DVR'd it as one of many programs. And so I said, no, I you know, she goes, well, you're going to want to watch one of the segments. And we got the kids and we're trying to get them ready and get off, and we're running a little late. And I said, okay, well, when we get back, I'll do it. And I'm sitting in the middle of Mass. And, you know, I get that little buzz vibration that goes off when you're getting a text or a tweet or whatever. And it's just the whole time I'm getting one after another after another. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be good. So I'm trying to be respectful in church.
Right.
We you know, wraps up and I look down at my phone and it's just a series of, that was funny. Wow, she nailed it. And I'm like, what the heck are we talking about? So we beelined it home. I stood in my kitchen and I'm like hitting going through everything that had been DVR'd. And I'm trying to find it because it wasn't the cold open that first time. So I have to scroll through and find it out. And then I'm just sitting there glued to what was going on, going, oh boy. And I got a chuckle out of it, I'll tell you. I mean, the first one was funny, and frankly, she nailed it.
Yeah, well, it's Sean Spicer. We're talking about when Melissa McCarthy was on Saturday Night Live and did the impersonation. It was funny, and your reaction was exactly what it had to be. I think they wanted to, and by they, I think the media as a whole wanted you to react in a very different way. The way that you took it, and the way that you laughed at it, and the way you said, you know what, that makes sense. It's fair game. I think that served you well. I mean, did you see anybody take it?
I'm not sure in what way. But
I think it served you well because you could have been a jerk about it, is what I'm saying, and you weren't.
Thank you. Yeah, no, you're right. And I mean, look, she's a talented actor. Yeah. She played a role, and she did it well. And look, like I said, I stepped in it, and you know, it was funny and well deserved. And so I think at those moments, you got to be able to laugh at yourself, especially in a job like that. And so, you know, like I said, that one when they kicked it off was funny. From time to time, I still see clips and get a kick out of it.
Well, I'm glad that you reacted the way that you did because, again, you could have gone the opposite way, and what you did, it really humanized you. And I think at least the general public said, okay, I get this guy now. Sean Spicer, the name of the book is The Briefing: Politics, the Press, and the President. Sean, are you from the media? Are you a former reporter, anchor, something like that? Where did you come from?
I came from a small town in Rhode Island. No, I was involved.
If you can, just give me your life story if you can, Sean. We've got a few minutes.
Or you can read the book.
Right, exactly right. I'm trying to get people to read the book, Sean. Give me a nugget.
So I got involved in politics and just sort of basically at the latter half of college, you moved down to Washington, D.C. In the 90s after Republicans had taken control of Congress. And that kind of my only goal, I thought, hey, I'll stick around a couple of years. I really would love to work on Capitol Hill, and then I'll move back to Rhode Island. And I kind of kept going from there. And then spent 6 years at the RNC and got involved. And I, obviously was there for the Romney campaign. And then we were going to, hey, let's stick around and do this one more time.
Right.
And, lo and behold, this historic thing happens with Donald Trump.
How do you meet Donald Trump? Because, I mean, he's not the historic, general GOP guy that you think of. He was the outlier. How did you sort of put your trailer on that one?
It's a great question. I've interacted with him a bunch of times, and he but primarily the first time we met him was that he was a donor, and so we had gone up to New York City to ask for his continued support as we were rebuilding the party, and he was giving us his political commentary on what he saw the role of the RNC and the landscape to look like. And then he came and spoke at a donor event. Not only was he a donor, but he helped us raise money, and then obviously I was the point person for the debates, for the Republican debates at the RNC, got to deal with him more and more, and that role just increased after he became the nominee in Cleveland.
And he's really about loyalty, and if you're part of the team, he's going to look out for you, and you're looking out for him. I mean, he really is that guy, right?
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing is I don't think people fully appreciate it, and that's why one of the other things is I try to show the side of Trump that I don't think a lot of people get to see for a variety of reasons, and talk about that. He can be extremely empathetic and caring and thoughtful. And I don't, that's something that either a lot of people don't want to see.
People don't believe it.
Right.
Yeah, and I saw it firsthand. You're absolutely right. It's called The Briefing, Politics, the Press, and the President. That's the name of Sean Spicer's brand new book. It's out tomorrow. You can pre-order it today. One last question. Are you still a supporter of the president and his agenda? And do you guys have a relationship?
Absolutely. And I've talked to him just a little while, not today. I talked to him a little while ago.
Yeah.
Stay in contact with him and the staff, and I think he's getting the results for the American people. And I told him the day I left, and it's in my resignation letter, that I'm going to continue to go out there and fight for his policies and his agenda, and continue to support him. So absolutely.
Well, brother, I hope that you sell 1 billion of these books. It's The Briefing, Politics, the Press, and the President. His name is Sean Spicer, the first press secretary for this president, Donald Trump. Sean, thanks a million.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it, and for all you do to spread the message.
We're back after this in the Joe Pags Show. Stay right here.